I watched Invicta 16, and something that caught my attention was that neither Andrea Lee or not either or neither nor neither Andrea Lee nor Amber Brown seemed to tap despite being completely caught in a submission hold. Andrea Lee did, I believe. She kind of like did one of these numbers, like had struggled to tap. I've seen a lot of fighters glorify Holm not tapping out at UFC 196. I was wondering, do you think there is a risk that especially younger fighters will see it somehow more fitting not to tap out on the semi-big stage? I find this entire debate or discussion, whatever you want, I don't know if there's much of a debate really, about tapping to be so ridiculous. Now, oh my God, it's like, let me understand this. We've got insanely tough guys in boxing who will put themselves through unhealthy, career-shortening, if not outright career-ending abuse in the name of the preservation of some phony ideal of toughness. We have over in MMA an escape valve to avoid that very thing, because you can tap to strikes. St. Pierre has tapped to strikes. You go back and you watch that fight against Matt Serra, he tapped to strikes in that one. Okay. He's one of our best fighters ever and had a dominant rebound. This idea that there is anything wrong with tapping, either in a strictly jiu-jitsu context or to strikes, is madness. It is madness. We should be celebrating fighters who tap. Now, not that we are celebrating their loss, not that we are celebrating their unwillingness to continue competing necessarily in that way, but that we have fighters who realize this tapping does not define my character. It does not. It does not. It does not. A lot of fighters feel like they're sending signals. I saw Matt Mitrione, a very bright guy, on, again, Oriel's MMA Hour, saying, well, the difference between not tapping and tapping is that if you shut the lights out and I don't tap, you had to go and take it. You didn't take it from me. I didn't willingly concede. Okay, well, your brain overrode you, right? Your brain said, no thanks, goodbye. The adult in the room has to step in. That's what that is. Tapping is exactly what mixed martial arts needs. You need to give even very tough people an escape route. There needs to be, I'm going to get on my boat. I am so confident in this boat, I am not going to put any life preservers on it. I am so confident in this boat. Well, turns out you might need some life preservers. Tapping is the humanity brought back to fighting. Fighting is a very difficult thing. It should only be done at a professional and even amateur level in a regulated context by trained people with lots of oversight and screens put in place. Okay. But even with that, we are frail, mortal creatures. We need to give these guys the ability to say, I've had enough. Because it turns out when you do that, there is plenty of evidence to suggest they can come back from it. If tapping were so gravely consequential that guys never got over the psychological damage, that they were never able to, from an image standpoint, repair themselves, then there might be a case to say, I don't know if tapping's in your interest. There is virtually, if you're done, right? Like, the case of McGregor, there was maybe a little bit of cost to fight the hands, but not really. He was done. Especially in the case of Holm, you're done. Like, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, you are done. It's in your interest, especially if it's an arm manipulation or a joint manipulation. It is very much in your interest to say, okay, fine, you win. I'll be back though. I'll be back. It is a blessing that mixed martial arts has this, and it is a curse that boxing does not. Oh my God, Roberto Duran said no mas. Good on him. Smart guy. He had enough. We like to imagine tough guys have this infinite capacity, either mentally or physically, for punishment. They do not. They do not. This is just a bunch of nonsense. These literary narratives we ascribe characters in fight sports, and all of a sudden, when the humanity of it all comes crashing down, how could Roberto Duran say that? Oh, I know, because he had enough. Because even tough guys have enough. This is not a controversial idea. I understand why a fighter is going to disagree with me. A fighter is going to go out there and say, no, 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 there's a value to that. That's because they're super tough. Okay. But they may not know it. They may not agree with it, but they've got their limits. And plenty of guys who have gone out before have also tapped before, even to chokes. So there's a bit of like hypocrisy all the way around in some of these positions that people adopt. There's nothing wrong with tapping if you've had enough, either from strikes or from a submission. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing shameful about it. There's nothing harmful about it. And in fact, it is probably the best way to be able to say, I'm going to get back on my feet and try this again. A tap is almost motivating in a way for the right person who is psychologically in the right space. You say, you know what? Okay, you got me. Checkmate. Fine. Checkmate. But I'm gonna okay, take one. Let's try take two. That's often what the feeling is after a tap. So this idea, like, I'm just gonna hold on forever. Look, I admire your toughness. I really do. And this is why those guys do that and you and I don't. Fair enough. But even those guys are kidding themselves a little bit when they say there's no real benefit to it. And really, without any kind of pressure on them, this little like social pressure we put on them, this community pressure about not tapping, they would do it much more freely. They are not exercising their right to do it for appearance's sake. We are giving them this. The last thing we should be doing is stigmatizing tapping. The last thing we should be doing. These kinds of safety valves are what's going to allow the sport to continue in a much more healthy and positive direction for much longer. There is nothing wrong with tapping. And the fight sports that have problems with it are the problems later on down the road. You don't want guys holding on for longer than they're willing just to uphold a code of honor. That is insane. That is insane. You can admire the toughness of it. Wow, it's super tough. That is insane. You want guys who have had enough to be able to say as much. There is no shame in one super tough person, lady or guy, fighting another super tough person, realizing they've outmatched and they want to preserve themselves and just saying no more. Of course, you want them to exercise and push themselves to the limit. Okay. Well, if they've hit that limit and they're just going on because they're just going on, and you're in some state like Oklahoma and you've got donk referees, now you're entrusting this poorly trained referee to save this person? No thanks. No thanks. Give him an out valve. Do not ever stigmatize someone tapping. If someone taps, you congratulate the winner and you bow to the loser and you say, you'll have your next day. And that's it. That's it. You have to preserve the humanity in fighting in some capacity or another. And we have a perfect, easy escape valve that fighters should be able to use. Do not take it away from them.